Now, I've been using Interactive Brokers for about 2 years now, and today I'll break down exactly what I like about it, what I dislike about it, and I'll show you around this platform. And at the end, I'll tell you if it's really worth it compared to the other investment brokers we have here in Europe. Hello finance people, I'm Robert, and on this channel I talk about investing and personal finance from a European perspective. Let's start with the good stuff. When it comes to investing, one of the most important things is that you don't pay too much in fees to your broker. Luckily, Interactive Brokers, the fees are on the lower side. Now, the fees depend on what you're buying and in what country, but just to give you some context, when I buy ETFs with €1,000 from a European exchange, it costs me about €1.25, which is very competitive. Now, IB has a little bit more complicated how they structure their fees. My advice is to just select the tier pricing in the settings that's going to be better for most investors. Now, there are a few platforms that are cheaper than IB, like Trading212. They offer commission-free trading, but don't let this be the only factor when deciding which broker to use. €1 here and there won't make a big difference unless you're trading with really small amounts. Now, the second thing I like about IB is the fact that it comes with so many features. No matter if you're a total beginner or a professional investor, IB has a tool for you. So check this out. Basically, they offer 4 different platforms, all targeting different types of investors. You can see it here on their website. Now, this also creates a bit of confusion for beginners, but I'll talk about this a bit later in this video. But essentially, Interactive Brokers has all the features you need as an active trader or a passive long-term investor. Now, I only invest long-term, so the features I'm gonna mention from now on, they are basically from that perspective. For example, IB offers things like fractional shares, so you can buy a small parts of a share, like 0.1 shares or 0.345 shares, instead of the whole share. This comes in handy if the price of an asset is in the thousands or 10,000. This way you can still buy a small part of it and you don't need to save up until you can afford the whole share. Then it's extremely important that your platform offers recurring investments. This means the platform will invest for you automatically if you set it that way. Usually you set it once a month and then everything happens automatically. And this is how it works in summary. You set automatic money transfer from your bank to IB, and in IB you can set recurring investments into a specific stock or ETF. And then it will take the money from your IB account and invest it into the asset that you selected on a selected date. Trust me, it's an essential feature for long-term investing, so you better have it. Also, basically, you need to use it. It makes your life so much easier. This is the best way to be consistent with investing. It's also nice to know that if you want to get out of Interactive Brokers and close it, then you can transfer your assets to another broker. Instead of selling everything you have, taking the money out, then putting it into the new broker, this is just a lot of hassle. And on top of that, you're probably going to get taxed on your profits. So it's just better to use features like this asset transfer, and IB will just hand over your stocks or ETFs to the other broker. So there's no, you don't get actually any profits. You just move the asset. Also, for day traders, you are able to short sell and use leverage with a margin account. And a short sell means that you invest and expect the price of the asset go down, and then you make money. You can also use leverage in your positions, which basically just means you can loan extra money from the broker to have more money to invest. This just means you make more money when you're right, but you also lose a lot more when you are wrong. Although for some features you need to qualify for, so they will ask you a few questions and a bit of about your experience and so on, but they are there. And on top of all of this, IB has advanced analytics and extensive research capabilities, and just in general, it has all the professional grade tools and features even for experienced investors and day traders as well. So you can't go wrong with choosing IB. The next thing I like about Interactive Brokers is that it also provides extensive investment options, including stocks, ETFs, options, futures, bonds, Forex, CFDs. For some of these, you do need to qualify. I already kind of mentioned that. So basically, if you require advanced tools or advanced asset types, then IB is your choice. The next thing I like about Interactive Brokers is that they have high trustworthiness. And this word is a little bit, fluffy. What does it actually mean? Well, first of all, they are a public company in the US, which means you can dig deep into their financials and see how they're doing. Basically, you'll be able to look at their financials and see if there's any trouble. And in theory, you should be able to see if it's getting out of hand. Now, you're probably not going to do it yourself, but I'm sure if there's any trouble, the big social media guys will raise alarms, because these things, because it's publicly available, people do check this. Also, for us who live in EU, IB is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. And for you guys who live in the UK, IB is regulated by the FCA in the UK. This gives me a bit of more trust in the IB compared to some other brokers who are registered in Cyprus. That's probably like 80%, 90% of them are registered in Cyprus. On top of all of that, IB is an extremely popular platform worldwide. You'll see it in all over YouTube and Reddit. So if you have any issues or questions, someone has already answered it, or maybe there's a tutorial. And as a cherry on the cake, IB is so widely used that even other platforms use their infrastructure to run their trades. For example, Trading 212 runs on Interactive Brokers infrastructure. So when you use Trading 212, essentially the trade is executed via IB, and also the assets are stored in IB. So Trading 212 is just a very polished layer on top of all of that. That said, Trading 212 has its good sides as well compared to IB. And if you want to know, I compared the two platforms, you can just check out this video right here, and then it's a direct comparison of the two. And the last point is probably important to only very few of you, but I do want to mention that basically IB is a very large company and almost everywhere in the world. So if you're planning to move to another country or a continent, there's a high chance that IB is already there. That means you can just you can just keep using IB, and you might just need to move your assets from one branch of IB to another, like moving from your IB UK to the IB EU. But that's easy and free to do. Okay, before I talk about what I dislike about Interactive Brokers, let me show you what it looks like, just to give you a bit of feel. And I'll show you the mobile IB Global Trader, which is their way to make it easier to start with. This is like it's meant for the beginners. If you're new to investing, this is the platform to use. So I'm here in the Interactive Brokers mobile app, not the Global Trader, but the basic mobile app. This one has more features, so I like to use that one. And here it's quite straightforward. This is the home page, and you can see that my performance here, I can tap on, for example, all-time performance. So my portfolio on Interactive Brokers have been doing really well. If you start scrolling here, you see there's a lot more information about different stocks, assets, and so on. This is kind of standard. You can go into a portfolio also from here. If you just tap on it, you have watch list here at the bottom and so on. But if you're ready to trade, you could just tap on the search icon here, and let's search for Apple. Now you can see there's a lot of options here, but I want the Apple Inc. Here you have the possibility to buy the stock option, CFD, because we're in a long-term investors. From here on this page, you just find out more information about the stock itself. You have the price, more information about Apple stock on the same page, like the summaries. You have the dividend information here, if the stock pays out dividends, analyst ratings, and so on. So you can see that there's quite a lot of stuff here, and whenever you're ready, you can tap on buy button, and now you can buy this asset. From here, you would just adjust the quantity and the order type and so on. And hey, if you are a beginner to investing and want to get started with long-term investing without feeling completely overwhelmed, then check out my Investing Fast Track workshop. It's specifically designed for people living in Europe. And we will cover things like strategies and brokers, and talk a little bit about taxes here in Europe. You can find the link in the video description, and there's more information. Now that you know what it looks like, let's talk about the downsides of Interactive Brokers. The biggest thing I dislike about them is that it feels overly complex especially for beginners. The interface feels outdated for most of the platforms they offer and can be quite overwhelming initially. So it definitely has a steeper learning curve than with some of the other apps. On top of that, Interactive Brokers has multiple platforms. For example, there are 2 different mobile platforms, and as I show you already, the Global Trader is much easier and cleaner than the other mobile platform. Then there's basic online desktop version, a trade workstation for desktop, and a client portal. These are all separate things. But as you can see, it's already starting to get confusing even though you haven't even started with it. So which platform do you need to use? They could do this part much better and guide the user to the right tool. Also, just because I'm talking about it being all complex, I've heard people have a bit of trouble with the sign-up process. It's just more complicated than with some other brokers. The second thing I dislike about IB is that you get only the standard protection of 20,000 euros for EU users and 85,000 pounds for UK. So this protection comes from the investor compensation scheme, which basically covers you up to 20,000 euros in case the broker goes bankrupt. Your money is kept in a segregated account, which just means your money doesn't go to IB's bank accounts, but instead is kept in third-party banks. This is done so that one day the Interactive Brokers CEO or other employees can just, withdraw all your money and disappear somewhere in Bahamas. And by the way, the fine print here is it's not like the investors who hold 20,000 in Interactive Brokers will lose everything over that amount because of this asset segregation, it should protect your money and assets in the event of bankruptcy. The investor protection scheme only comes into play in the case that the broker is found to be fail to protect your assets, or in the case they basically frauded you. Only in that case this scheme comes to play. So you can think about it more of like a safety net, but some competitors like Trade Republic have 100,000 euro protection because it is registered as a bank in Germany. So that's why I'm putting this as a dislike, because IB could improve this point. This just makes me at least feel a little bit safer with them, or I would feel safer if they had this. That said, 90% of brokers use this 20,000, so it's nothing out of the ordinary, but it's just there are a couple of brokers that have that 100,000, so it would be also nice that they would raise the bar there. But basically the last thing I dislike about IB is that when it comes to interest on cash, it's just non-existing. First of all, it starts from 10,000 euros or 8,000 pounds, and the interest rate is super low. Like, you might as well keep your money in the bank low. It's just useless. Many platforms offer similar rates to European Central Bank rate. For example, Trading2 has 2.2% on euros and 4.1% on dollars right now. Now I know that 2.2 still sounds very little when it comes to euros, but a year or maybe 2 ago, this was 4% for euros. So this rate changes all the time, but basically IB is not a good place to park your cash. So what is my final recommendation? Should you run away, consider, or just go ahead and sign up with Interactive Brokers? Well, I would just go ahead and sign up. If you're looking for a well-established and robust platform with the reassurance that millions use the same tool, which also comes with a lot of features, basically all the features you ever need, then Interactive Brokers is your choice. Yes, it takes a little bit longer to learn the platform, but in the long run, it's just worth it. And remember, don't let choosing a broker paralyze you. It's more important that you start now than take another 2 months to decide. Nothing is stopping you from using multiple brokers at the same time, or if you don't like Interactive Brokers in the long term, you can switch to something else. Now you learn about IB, but without the right long-term investment strategy, it's going to be hard to stay disciplined and you might lose money that way. That's why you should watch this video next, where I reveal the only investment strategy you will ever need for long-term investing.